All right, everybody, welcome into a new week, a new video. Today is the last day of the main set Commander Master Spoilers leaks. There are not really that many, but we will cover them a bit later in the video. What I want to talk about right now is the Sliver Swarm Commander Precon. This deck has been officially revealed today, and I will be covering it pretty much in its entirety from the new cards and any noteworthy reprints. It is selling on the secondary market for a high margin, and it's time to find out if that hype justifies. All right, guys, welcome to the video, and yes, just want to give a quick thanks to Commander at Home on YouTube. They are the ones who actually spoiled this entire deck. Thanks to Wizards, kind of gave them that deck for a reveal, so check them out if you want to see their original video. There are obviously a lot of cards in this deck that I'm not going to touch on in today's video because they are, reprints that are less than $1 or not super noteworthy. If you want to see that stuff, go check out the video there. What I want to talk about is the new cards and just a couple of noteworthy reprints. And again, like I mentioned in the intro, the thing about this deck that's a bit weird is that it's actually $130 at the cheapest, I think, on TCG Player right now. And I know that, again, that's pre-order prices and it's all around hype and everything, but, like, that's still an absolutely insane amount of money for a Commander deck. And obviously this isn't Wizards, but without an MSRP, these types of things are bound to happen. I don't know what the actual expected price of this should be, but it's definitely expensive. So what we're going to look at is kind of the new cards, whether or not they're any good, and then the reprints and whether or not, like, it's going to be worth that money. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I don't think that it is. That's not to say that it's bad. I think at $50 this deck would be a steal. It's got a lot of really good stuff, and obviously with the right amount of upgrades you could pick it up and play pretty easily, especially if you're a new player getting into the game. Slivers are definitely powerful, but wow, they kind of dropped the ball in terms of reprints and stuff here, and obviously we'll have to see how the new cards play out. So let's get into it. Starting out with Sliver Gravemother, who is one of the two commanders for the deck. And it is a 5-color Sliver that says, the legend rule doesn't apply to Slivers you control. Each Sliver in your graveyard has Encore X, where X is its mana value. And for Encore, of course, you exile it, create a token that attacks the opponent this turn if able. They gain haste, and then sacrifice them. So you can pay the Encore cost for a Sliver and make 3 copies of it with haste, all of which, can attack an opponent, and that is kind of cool because of how Slivers stack with one another, so you can easily see where you can push for damage with this, and because it basically ignores that legend rule, you can start to stack these up pretty fast. I actually think this is a really, really good commander, and I think it's really going to be a good commander for Slivers going forward. They obviously have cards like the first Sliver, Sliver Queen, which see play, in the commander slot, but I think this is going to be probably the best option there, and maybe some of those other ones will be a bit better in the 99, but I think people, who are more experienced or well-versed with the deck may have a bit more insight on what best. Now, the other commander face card, or whatever you want to call it, is Ruka Rumel, Biologist. This is also 5-color, and it says, as this card enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Slivers you control and non-token creatures you control are the chosen type, in addition to their other creature types. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. And then you pay 3, tap, create a 1/1 colorless Sliver token. What this means is, Slivers in your grave, in your hand, in your deck, based on what I'm reading here, based on my understanding of this, are all turned into Slivers and or whatever, other type. So basically, you could technically choose Sliver, and then all of your other creatures will also be considered Slivers. So if you were playing non-Sliver deck, you can get them out. But the cool part about this is that you can also, like, work, I don't know, maybe Slivers into, like, a different kind of tribal thing and turn the Slivers into something else. I don't know. There's a lot of different directions you could take with it, but I would imagine that it's probably, if you're playing some other power cards or other cards that are meant to complement your Slivers that aren't Slivers, you can turn everything into Slivers. I've said Slivers too many times. This is a really good card. I think Sliver Gravemother is probably going to be a better commander, but I'm not 100% set on that. I think as a whole, like, there's might be ways to utilize this just kind of like as a 5-color commander outside of her archetype. Regal Sliver is alright. It's 3 and a white. It says Sliver creatures you control have, when this creature enters battlefield, Slivers you control get +1/+1 until end of turn if you're the monarch. Otherwise, you become the monarch. It's alright. It's not terrible, and obviously giving, buffing up your Slivers as they come in and also playing into the monarch mechanic is kind of neat. Not to mention allowing you to just become the monarch without having to attack is kind of an interesting solution. I'm sure it'll be played, I think, because it seems decent enough and the buffs are good, but it's not the most impressive deck. Hatchery Sliver is pretty good. It is 1 and a green. It has Replicate 1 and a green. When you cast this spell, copy it for each time you paid its Replicate cost. Each Sliver spell you cast has Replicate. The Replicate cost is equal to and a cost. So you can pay basically the cost as many times as you like and make copies of your Slivers. That synchronizes really well with the commander basically ignoring the legend rule, so that's neat. But it also synchronizes with the biologist because you could very easily just make all of your creatures Slivers with her ability or his, her ability, and then go ahead and that synergizes really well with the biologist because you could basically use her ability to make all of the creatures in your deck Slivers, and then you can cast other things. Like imagine casting like, I don't know, Esper Sentinel or something, with 2. And then if you're, it's a Sliver, so the legend rule doesn't apply to it, all that stuff. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of manipulate that. I think this has a lot of potential to be really cool in conjunction with the biologist if that's the commander that you choose to go with. Titan of Littjara. This is actually really cool as well. It is 4 and 2 blue. As an ETB creature type, it is the chosen type in addition to its other types. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may draw a card for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. You draw a card. So if this comes in as a Sliver and you got a bunch of Slivers out, boom, you can just draw a bunch of cards and you only got to discard 1. Really, really good. I think this is going to be good in tribal decks in general. It's a really, really solid card as a whole. And I think it's a good inclusion. Probably going to be scrambling to pick up even if you're not looking to play Slivers. Descendants Fury is 3 and a red enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice one of them. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until your card that shares a type with that card. Put that card onto the battlefield and rest on the bottom of your library in a order. Goblins is one of the first things that comes to mind with this, or even like dragons. But, goblins make a lot of tokens. If you swing with goblins and hit with one, sack a goblin token and bring out a permanent goblin. Kind of cool. A lot of potential here, again, just as a generically decent enchantment for tribal archetypes. Back to Slivers for a minute. We've got Capricious Sliver. This is 3 and a red and says Sliver creatures you control have whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. It basically gives you Impulse Draw on all of your Slivers, which is kind of neat, assuming you have the mana to pay for them, which using some of the Slivers that actually can generate mana, maybe difficult. Not a bad card. I think it'll be included. I think the regeneration is solid. For the Ancestors is 2 and a green, instant. Choose a creature type. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You reveal any number of cards of the chosen type from among them, and put the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on your library in the bottom order, and it has flashback. Obviously, again, I'm going to go back to saying this combos really well with the biologist. She can change the type of whatever you like in the deck. So playing those 2 cards together may give other, tribal archetypes an absolutely insane ability to get a lot of cards and resources in hand fast. And while you're, not necessarily going to hit 6 creatures every time, you definitely should be able to have that as an option for you. Taunting Sliver, doing his little taunting thing. 3 and a blue. Sliver creatures you control have whenever this creature enters the battlefield, goad target creature and opponent controls. Goading, of course, says until next turn that creature attacks each combat if able and attacks a player other than you if able. It's okay. I don't think it's terrible. It's probably going to be one that people include. I think it might have been a little better if it was lower cost, like maybe win a blue instead, but it might have been too powerful. I don't know. Not a Sliver expert, but I have played with the deck and faced against the deck many times in my play group, so I'm relatively familiar with how it works. Lazotep Sliver is 3 and a black, and it says Sliver creatures you control have Afflict 2. Whenever a creature with Afflict 2 becomes blocked, defending player life. Whenever a non-token Sliver you control dies, amass Sliver 2. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on an army you control. It's all Sliver. If you don't control an army, create a 0/0 black Sliver army first. So we have Orc Army, Sliver Army, and Zombie Army now. It's cool to see a mass getting a little bit more love. This is really, really good because if you're able to spam a bunch of Slivers, even using things like the Encore effect of the original commander, you can basically either force your opponent to block them and then they take a lot of damage, or, force them to let it go through and then you're able to resolve whatever effects or deal damage. This is a really interesting card, and it definitely does a lot. And if they do block, not only does the defending player lose life, you can then amass Slivers and make your counters stack up beefy on a Sliver army. I actually like this card quite a bit. So those are the 10 new cards, but there are some notable reprints. So let's take a quick look at those and see whether or not they're going to help add to the value of the deck, because obviously without this deck being out yet, it's impossible for us to know what prices are look like. All right, the first notable reprint is Sliver Hive Lord. This is actually a really good card. It is a 5-color Sliver that says Sliver creatures you control have indestructible. It's a good card, and it was about $15 to $20 before the announcement of the reprint, depending on where you look. So I'm glad to see this included in here as an option for the deck. But that's it for Sliver creatures that really needed the reprints. And what I mean by that is we did not get reprints of the first Sliver, and we did not get reprints of Sliver Overlord. That is actually really disappointing because, again, the price of the deck and things being as expensive as they are, you would really think they would have gone the extra mile to really try to justify the value on a quote-unquote premium product, but here we are. Now, I don't think Sliver Overlord is a reserve list card at all because it is in secret layer, so I'm pretty sure it's just a matter of it not getting reprinted here. But that's about a $35 to $40 card on average, so the fact that it was left out, a little disappointing. Yeah, I don't know where they're going to put them or if they're going to put them somewhere, but it wouldn't shock me to see people go after those cards a little bit more since they're not going to be here. Icon of Ancestry, not bad for tribal decks in general. A 3-drop that allows you to buff creatures control and also get some slivers from the top of the deck. Decent enough reprint. It was a couple bucks, so good to see it in here. Herald's Horn, another really good tribal card that has always, stayed about $5 to $7. Hopefully, the more they reprint it, the more, accessible it'll be, the cheaper it'll become from a budget perspective, but obviously a really good card for the deck. Windfall is a really, really good uncommon that gives draw power to blue, and this is like a $7 uncommon, so it is a good inclusion. Definitely one of the better wheel cards in the game, so happy to see that here. Vanquisher's Banner getting another reprint after being in the Night deck, and probably one of the Lord of the Rings decks too. This card is always going to be a good option to consider in tribal decks, especially because you can draw cards, buff stuff up. You can really spend lots of damage with the Slivers. And then 3 Visits also announced for reprint in here. Another really good card about, starting to go up a bit, actually. It's only been reprinted a couple of times. It was like 7 to 10. Hopefully this will bring it down a few bucks, but I think it might be one of the best ramp cards in format. So obviously, being able to get access to that at a little bit price is certainly a thing. Other than that, all the reprints, the land cycle is really lackluster. They reprinted a couple of decent lands, but they're all like 25, 30-cent cards. Nothing really noteworthy on that front, and most of the other creatures are just slivers. From just a quick research that I did, most of the slivers that are getting reprinted in here were like a buck or two at most. Didn't really bother to include them because I just don't think they're that noteworthy. And like I said, you guys can go check out Commander at home and, look at their full video if you want to see the actual breakdown of everything in the set. But just kind of my quick thoughts on these. This deck has some really interesting cards for slivers and a couple of decent reprints, but I am underwhelmed in terms of its value and what people are paying for it and what the demand has been. It doesn't really feel like you're justifying charging a premium price for this product because it's just not, heads and shoulders above the levels of the other Commander decks that we usually see. And while it's quite good, I mean, it might have been a different conversation if the first Sliver or Sliver Overlord were included in here and you had some more big power cards to justify the price increase, quote unquote. But alas, that is not the case, and so I find myself a little underwhelmed. So I send it to you, dear viewers. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this deck as a whole. Are you excited about it? Do you think it justifies the price point? I don't know what the actual expected retail price would be, and what I mean by that is what distributors are going to be valuing it at and whatnot. I don't know. There's no MSRP, so it's kind of hard to tell. But let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll be providing coverage continuing into this week. Thanks to everybody who has watched the videos. We have seen an absolutely massive increase in viewership over the past couple weeks since I started doing coverage, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Trying to respond to literally everyone that I can, and obviously it's a little bit more volume than I'm used to, so I'm pumped, but just bear with me as I try to, make sure I'm putting out quality content and responding. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.